Welcome back to the non-profits. We go all over the internet in little bands of adventuring troops of four hardy adventurers looking for proofs of deity and the supernatural. Despite not finding information to convince us of the existence of any god, we are here to tell you what we have found. So strap yourself in because the show is starting right now. Yeah, welcome back to another episode of The Non-Profits, the show where we discuss news and topics of the day from a skeptical humanist perspective. My name is Richard Gilliver, and today's topics are a preacher invoking God's wrath against those who oppose Trump, the Dalai Lama asking a young boy to suck his tongue, a Florida lawmaker attacking trans people and then apologizing, and a Washington governor being on the side of the trans community. Today, I have some wonderful guests with me. I'm going to start. Which side are we going? That way at the far end. Mr. Jason Friedman, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm real happy to be with all y'all here, and I'm real excited to talk about these choice individuals that we have to talk about this day. So we're just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's one way to describe them. Teo, how are you?
Hi, Richard. It's been such a long time. I'm so happy to be back. I love being here, and this is going to be a great episode for what I can see, or at least an interesting one.
Definitely, absolutely. And last but definitely not least, one of my favorite people, Cindy Plaza. How are you?
Thanks. I'm doing great. I'm really hyped for this show, for the co-hosts and the topics. I think we're going to have some very interesting discussions.
Yes, so do I. It's going to be a good one. This show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 non-profit organization dedicated to promoting atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. As with all our shows, links to today's topics and the news we discuss are available in the description below. And a reminder that if you want to come into the show prepared, you can check out the Non-Profits Facebook fan page every single Friday night for a list of the articles ahead of time. So we are going to jump straight into segment one, and Jason is going to take us in.
Shit internet apologists say.
Well, I have the pleasure of starting this off with an article that we can find on rightwingwatch.org. The name of the article is Lance Wallnau warns that God will soon start killing those who are, quote, persecuting Trump. It's by Kyle Mantyla. Sorry if I slaughtered that. I'm sure I did. And he wrote it April 10th, 2023 at 2:42 p.m. It's important. All right, so just started off. Lance Wallnau, he's a religious right activist and a self-proclaimed Christian nationalist. He streamed a video on his Facebook page on Easter Sunday, of course, in which he warned that God will start killing American political leaders next month in response to the recent arrest of former President Donald Trump. He broadcasted live from Israel, and he blamed the devil for Trump's arrest last week on charges of falsifying business records, which prosecutors say he did during the 2016 election to cover up hush money payments made to women with whom he allegedly had extramarital affairs. Wallnau urged his viewers to start engaging in what he called imprecatory prayers to bring a curse upon those that are supposedly persecuting Donald Trump, warning that those who, quote, have been standing in the path of what God intends to accomplish through Trump will soon pay with their lives. Now, we were talking about this early on, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Richard. And I'd really like to hear what you have to say about this guy. I've got some feelings, but I'm going to wait till y'all discuss yours because I probably have nothing positive to add to this. Richard, what you got, man?
I mean, I think the thing that stood out for me with this is that, you know, he's gone and warned that these people are going to face God's wrath. But of course, we don't expect God himself to do the killing, because that would require him to exist.
Yep.
So I think what Wallnau is suggesting is it will come in the form of, and this is what he says in the thing, an outrageous backlash over the clear political persecution of an innocent political candidate, I'll just repeat that bit, that we're really becoming like Venezuela or the Soviet Union, where we find a crime to lock up or assassinate our political rivals. The American people won't put up with it. So what is essentially, it seems to me, saying by God's wrath is, people rise up and do my bidding. It sounds very much like that. Although it can't actually say that. That's what he's saying. Without any doubt whatsoever in my mind. I'm going to pass this on over to Cindy because I'm really interested in your view on this.
Yeah, it shows how this God is all powerful, right? He needs people to pray for him to act through his people. So basically, he's useless. But yeah, this is completely nuts on so many levels. I don't even know where to start. When we first need to start using this appropriate word to describe them. The word is Christofascist, and I wish I read and heard this word more often because it describes them perfectly. I think Christians is not enough, fascists is not enough. Both of them describes exactly what they are. So we need to use this word more often. Other than that, what he says is typical bullshit from theists in general. Empty threats, appeal to prayers, political influence, which they shouldn't be doing since they don't pay any taxes. So yeah, in any other country, this guy would be dismissed as a clown, and no one would even talk to him or about him. But this is the US, and the push to turn the country into a theocracy is very, very strong and has been getting stronger, especially in the last couple of years, even though it comes from a minority of people. And that's something we need to say also very often, because they're not in power and they're not the majority. So we already know what the country would look like as if it were a theocracy, because some states already pretty much are. We have book bans. We have silencing the political opposition. We have forcing women to carry pregnancies. We have attacks on the LGBT community. There are currently 400 laws in effect in the states in the US targeting specifically the LGBT community. So some even want segregation and lynching to come back. So yeah, this is terrifying for the future of the country, and it will take some severe effort to get rid of this movement.
Yeah, I've seen it before, but guys, seeing the USA nowadays scares me. It's creepy as hell. I think that when Trump was elected, he pushed back all the advancement of people for decades. You're going to take decades to be back, to turn the USA into the strong power it used to be. Because, for example, when these guys start mentioning Venezuela, I can only think about how the USA became a world with a first world economy, but a third world mentality. It's becoming more and more religious by the day, which is creepy as heck. This guy, before the 2016 election, he called Trump's God chaos candidate and that he was anointed by God. And during the administration, he got insider treatment, so he got his special privileges. Trump decided to put a lot of people in power who are destroying the USA from the inside now. I have seen how abortion is now illegal in certain certain states. You can go to jail if you practice it. Now they are turning pills into an illegal thing as well, and under nothing but the idea of God decides that abortion is illegal, because they never read their Bible in Numbers 5, where God shows how to make abortions, and they just have these awful ideas that they are right and they have the right to, turn the USA into a theocracy. and it is scary. I mean, what Richard said, that this guy is calling other people to take action and infringe God's wrath on these guys. Yeah, if you read, if you listen to him, he said, oh yeah, he urged his viewers to start engaging in imprecatory prayers to bring a curse upon those persecuting Trump. Oh yeah, he wants them to pray to bring a curse. But then he says that, oh yeah, there have been prophecies happening. A lot of prophecies lately talk about sudden death. So it might look like something can be in May. Like he's exhorting his people to do something again. Those people trying to find justice. I can only think pathetic that the guy is calling for that, and at the same time, scary as hell that there will be people probably trying to follow him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I fully agree. I mean, leave it up to fucking fundamentalist Christians to resort to threats, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to. At this point, I'm not even fucking surprised. Yeah, I live in Texas, and I work in the oil and gas fabrication industry. So I hear shit like this on a constant daily basis. I can't help but feel like a mixture of rage, despondency, even fatalism when a person like this is allowed not only a platform, but propped up as though their sentiments carry some type of weight or merit or should actually be fucking considered. One has to ask himself, what is this guy getting out of this? And like what was discussed, y'all all brought up, this guy, he gets an in to the White House. He gets to hang out with all these big wigs, and he's propped up. He's special. The problem is that we have a plethora of doomsday prophets spackled across our media landscape. And like Cindy brought up, one would think that this would be viewed as obviously absurd. Sadly, this person represents the rising tide of fundamentalism that we see in the United States. Ultimately, I think this guy's just interested in what he can gain from alliances with powerful people. It's disgusting. And again, it's absurd, and it should be laughed off. Like Cindy said, instead, people take this shit to heart and then regurgitate this bullshit like as an addition to the gospel. I mean, this guy's associated with the New Apostolic Reformation and promotes Seven Mountains Dominionism. And that's a right-wing theology that teaches that far-right Christians are to do whatever is necessary, like y'all brought up, to take control of the seven main, quote, mountains that shape our culture. And they're talking about education, government, media, business, arts and entertainment, family, and religion. And they're doing this in order to bring every aspect of law and society into alignment with their right-wing, quote, biblical worldview. And as far as I'm concerned, this guy's a fucking traitor to America. This guy's a traitor to what the Constitution stands for, and to what the amendments of the Constitution stand for, to what the Bill of Rights stands for. And it's disgusting to me because I have friends of all across all spectrums. One of my best friends is a Christian. That's just how it works out. We grew up training and fighting together. We've already beat each other up enough times. So now we have conversations, right? So the thing is, whenever we talk about stuff like this, talk about people like Trump and people like this, they don't represent his interests. And it's like, again, what Cindy brought up, these are the fucking minority. Sadly, these are the people who are propped up and they're given gravitas. Cindy, I feel like your gears are turning as I'm talking. What do you have to add to this?
Yes, you mentioned those seven mountains, and it reminds me of a talking point I've tried to push on in the last year, is that the reason why the right has been successful in the last decade everywhere in the world is because they have a very specific goal every time. They had overturn Roe versus Wade. They always have a very specific goal, and they work towards it. The problem with the left is that in most countries we already got what we wanted. I mean, in Europe we all have paid leave. We all have social security. We all have what we all think are basic needs, right? And so the only thing we do is try to fight the extremism. But on their side, they are extremely motivated because they have a specific goal, and we don't.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I have to say, sorry, but as the Latin American guy, I have to say, in the USA, there is no left. it's only right and extremist right. Because down here, trust me, the left are trying to do some awful stuff, and you can check stuff in Venezuela, and you will see that people from Venezuela will hate the left because of what happened over there, and they will praise Trump and everything that is right extremist because they confuse it with, the opposite of what brought them down. And I think it's more like a medium side. What was the name? Like intermediate or neutral? I don't know. But
Centrist.
centrist. Yeah, but over there is not either the same that is in down here either. So maybe in Europe they got what they wanted, but in the USA the left doesn't exist. So I don't know if we could talk about, oh yeah, the left and the right. In the USA, just right and right extremists, and that's it.
Yeah, I think this for me is there's a part of this, there's a part of something he said, which we've already touched upon, but I want to come back to it because for me it's very much like a caricature of a gangster movie, and it's the part where he says they're happy this is happening, but I've been listening to prophecies lately about sudden deaths. And it looks to me like there could be some sudden deaths coming in May. And it's like, I mean, how much more caricature-like of a gangster can you be? I'm surprised he hasn't got his arm put around him and he's like his foot ready to trip him up at the top of a flight of stairs. With the kind of ridiculousness of it all, it just amazes me. And he mentions, when Jason mentioned the part about the 7 mountains, he mentioned that because he wants to bring it into alignment with their right-wing biblical worldview. And, this was kind of the focal point for me. This is what I wrote in my notes about this, because a biblical worldview is not a thing. So for 2,000 years, Christians have been bickering and killing each other over politics, power, and theology. When they have decided amongst themselves what it is a biblical worldview is, then they've got a right to fight for a biblical worldview. But until that time, they need to keep their noses out of politics, especially when it comes to making statements of judgment. You only have to look at the Twitter page of the right-wing Christian has-been Kevin Sobo to know that right-wing Christian views rely heavily on leaning on conspiracy theories and misinformation. And I hate to say it, people, but a genuine biblical worldview, as much as I would disagree with it, it would actually be superior to the methodology that these people use to inform themselves on politics. It really, really would. And I'm going to give Jason brought us in. I'm going to give Jason the last word, and then we'll move on.
For fear of being redundant, I have to agree with all y'all here that this is one big fucking dog whistle. Honestly, it's one big signal saying everybody get up in arms. And if you talk about we brought up the 7 mountains and the dominionism thing, they're not ashamed of saying that they want to force this to happen, and this directly challenges the foundation of what we stand for here in America. And I think that this should be viewed with much more fear and urgency than we really do. Again, I agree with Cindy. This person should be laughed off, but we don't have, I live in Texas. I'm a contractor. I don't have, if I lose my job, they could just come up to me tomorrow and say, there goes your job. They don't have to pay me unemployment. There's no social welfare for me because of where I fit in the social scheme of things. I'm screwed, so it's people like this, and especially him and other people who share his views in politics here in Texas, that are causing massive amounts of harm for the working class, for queer people, for especially trans people, trans youth. And these people actively work towards anti-scientific, anti-humanist, pro-misogynistic, androcentric, heteronormative, even worse, like they're not even what you would call just your basic heteronormative jerk. Like this is extreme right here. And even my close friends who are religious view stuff like this as abhorrent and disgusting. And sadly, these are the people who have their claws in and are making the decisions for us right now. And it's a real shame. And I think we should fight it. I don't think we should be threatening their lives like they're threatening ours. but at the same time, we should fight it with the same amount of fervor that they are. So that's all I got to say about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, I think that pretty much hits the nail on the head. There's no need for it. There is no need for it at all. I want to thank our veteran and new viewers for getting us over 12,000 subscribers. So if you are watching us now and you haven't subscribed yet, get onto that. And once you've subscribed, do the like and the ring the bell and all that jazz, so you'll always know when a new non-profits episode premieres. And I'll give you a little clue. It's every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. And it's the best show on every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. So then share the link to our channel with your friends, family members, co-workers, if I can speak. Everybody, the neighbor, the spiel, the neighbor guy you don't like, the neighbor guy you do like, dogs, cats, pigeons, little fishes that you see swimming in ponds running by your house, and any kind of fictional characters you might happen to come across. Share it with everybody. just share it. Let's get the word out there so we can start helping with those fundraisers. And are you aware that the Atheist Community of Austin has a podcast channel? Well, you should be. Check out the Atheist Experience Network, a place where you can find all of the ACA shows in podcast form. You can subscribe at tiny.cc/AEN podcasts, and you can listen to the episodes of the non-profits, this show, the Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, and even our archived shows. You do not want to miss a single episode. Now, this next one is going to be a juicy one. We've been talking about it backstage. Yeah. We've all been excited about coming up to it. And I think Mr. Teo is going to take us in.
Oh boy, here we go. So, I usually tend to criticize the Catholic Church and the awful and disgusting behavior towards children. So, of course, when the Dalai Lama did the same, I had to go against him. And I decided to ask for this segment. I cannot complain that I always end up talking about these most disgusting people who has these awful behaviors towards the most innocent people in the planet. Yeah, children. And what makes this topic especially interesting for me is the thing that a lot of people are trying to defend His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, in two ways. One saying, oh yeah, he's not a public figure because Buddhism doesn't have a god. Forgetting that, of course, there is nirvana, Buddhahood, and other ideas that can be taken or considered as magical or, like kind of deity-like. And there are some small deities around there. And also a lot of people defending him by saying, oh no, but this was just a misunderstanding, which I'm sure we can agree on. It's a very strange misunderstanding of this guy. For some reason, there is only one sketchy text around there talking about an explanation of a small game that is played over there, which for some reason I couldn't find, but I will talk about that later. So, what happened that we are talking about such awful misunderstanding? Oh, not much, just the Dalai Lama who forced a child to kiss him in India and then told him to suck his tongue. So, obviously, you can guess the Catholic Church was enraged because the guy was taking their own business and taking advantage of children. But, I don't know, I kind of get a little bit upset. So, Jason, if you can take it and start talking about your opinion before I get to enraged.
Yeah, I want to be careful, because I always want to worry about cultural sensitivity. But, the Dalai Lama, that dude doesn't live isolated, alone. The guy has traveled the world more. I mean, come on, that guy's Lance Armstrong, right? So I don't know. The way I see it is this, and I could be wrong, and I hope somebody proves me wrong because I like to know when I'm wrong so I don't sound like an idiot. I feel like these are the sort of issues we run into when we elevate a person to the status of a perceived godlike person. I know Buddhism. No. We call this dude His Holiness. Here's another old man in power wearing robes and treated like they're more than human. I don't know. I've seen other religions like that too. To me, this is an archaic practice that is outdated and, in my opinion, should be discarded. The fact that a person is referred to as His Holiness is highly fucking concerning. This is 2023. Yeah, I mean, I know we just spoke about the guy talking about God's wrath and slaughtering people who oppose Trump. I mean, so, but one would think we could have finally moved past these ridiculous practices that exalt normal people to unfathomable heights. I'm not concerned so much about the cultural relevance of being intimately physical with a child. All right. This man has no excuses. He has traveled the world many times over and should be aware that kissing a boy on the mouth and asking him to suck his tongue, it's just not cool. All right. What it reads like to me is maybe this old man's mind is starting to slip and that his facade isn't as easily hidden anymore. His handlers, I feel like, need to keep a tighter leash on this guy, but it's not surprising. Why would he be immune to the common practice of old, religious, powerful men abusing children? Cultural practice? Fuck that. Should I accept the cultural practice of forced female genital mutilation? Should I support the cultural practices of killing queer people? No. Double fuck that. The more we apologize for the filthy behaviors of old religious men, the more we cash in our morality for alliances to ancient superstitions that control our very thoughts and actions and infect our culture. We see the same song and dance that is performed by Catholics and Mormons and Muslims when they use their, quote, authority to abuse those below them. Cindy, how do you feel about this? Maybe you have a different perspective than I do. I don't know.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So yeah, for the record, I watched the video a couple of times, and when I saw it, I thought it was gross, and more importantly, the fact that the kid didn't seem to want to go along and was forced, that was a case of indisputable abuse. So we agree on that. But the second article we have in tonight is describes this behavior in the Tibetan culture, but it happens inside the circle of families. So when you know the kid, when the old person is a relative, and so it doesn't apply in this case because this was public. This was not a Tibetan kid. It was so it doesn't apply. However, I would just like to bring a little bit of caution to the discussion because I've seen two aspects of this that seem to be at play here, not in the panel, but on social media. As skeptics, and when Richard, you introduced the show, you said we view articles through a skeptical lens. So we need to be aware of our biases, and it seems that some reactions are fueled by the sentiment that we don't accept that because we are civilized, and they do that because they're not really civilized. And this sentiment is one of the main sources of colonialism, and we need to avoid that at all costs. I mean, we can criticize what he did for the right reasons, but this is not one. We shouldn't have this in mind when we talk about this event. The second one is that it seems that we've been conditioned by the Catholic Church, Theo's best friends, to react rightfully at every new sex abuse scandal committed by a priest. But we need to make sure that we are not overly critical of the Dalai Lama, because we now think that religion leader equals predator. We need to make sure that those two biases don't influence our view of this topic. That's the only caveat I would say I have compared to your positions.
Actually, I would like to disagree with you totally. I think that the first point that you mentioned, that, oh no, we are superior to them, I feel it's the other way around. Some people are trying to say, hey, wait, you feel so powerful, but no, this is normal in our ancient civilization where all parents and their children play with their mouths together, which, even though if I find it or not disgusting, it's not the point in here. As you mentioned, Cindy, it's not his own child or grandson. So
Mhm.
that's totally out of way. So saying, no, it's an old tradition from this strange land. No, that is the worst excuse ever. And in the second place, when you say, oh, no, but the Catholic Church is training us to hate them, I think it's the opposite. It's we are realizing, hey, these old guys in power, these quotation mark holiness, they are abusing their power and we should stop them. It was extremely hard to take this protection that famous people used to have, big singers, Hollywood actors who would rape and abuse other people, and then they could just get free because, oh no, they are famous. We have to protect them. Police officers are going to hide the evidence, and then the guys could make songs about how they are not guilty about what the police officer did for them. Stuff like that. We have seen that happening a lot. It took ages to take that power away from them, and now we're trying to do the same from religious people. So if we say, oh no, but no, why are we going to judge the Dalai Lama for something that the Catholic Church has been also doing? That is the freaking point. We must not let the Catholic Church do that, and we must not do any other religious guy do the same only because they are religious, because that is the most awful thing that we can do. And I should calm down, I should relax. And yes, just because we have seen this happening with others and we are kind of feeling, like that we have to react, I think it's the right thing to do, overreact. Even if we have to overreact and it could be kind of dangerous, it's way better to say, oh no, okay, the Dalai Lama was not being a disgusting perv and he was kind of in another track and we misunderstood, than just saying, oh no, he's holy, so obviously he doesn't have. And you know what? I'm going to go to the most disgusting and most stupid defense that was given about him. Penhad Sering, or whatever his name is, the head of Tibetan government in exile, defended the spiritual leader, saying the holy leader is beyond sensorial pleasures. He would never do something like that. That is awful. That is the most terrible excuse ever, and that is trying to excuse an awful guy who did something terrible. And yes, they started by saying, oh no, this is a China conspiracy. It's not the Dalai Lama doing that. It's caught in video, dude. So yes, indeed, I kind of disagree with you a little bit, just a little bit, apparently.
So I don't think we disagree that much, because everything you said is not contradicting what I said. But
Are you sure? Are you 100% sure?
No.
No. What I said was, we need to be careful when we accuse someone of something. I'm not saying that it is the case here. I said at the beginning, what he did was gross and inappropriate, and it was an abuse because the kid didn't want to play and was forced into it. So in this specific case, no. I'm just saying, when these kind of things happen, we need to avoid jumping to conclusions because of biases we already have. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the big hug that needs to come in and bring everybody together.
You can hug me anytime, big guy.
There's something here that kind of that Teo has touched on, which is really important, and I'm going to kind of touch on that, and then I'm going to kind of try and address each of you in an all-encompassing way, warm rainbowy way. And I think the thing is that Teo is absolutely right, and people don't notice this, because what we get with the Dalai Lama's perception in the West is that this friendly, kind of doddering, old, nice guy. And if you watch movies, there's films like the 7 Years in Tibet that Brad Pitt was in, and where the Dalai Lama's really young in that, and is portrayed as this really curious, lovely little child who's just interested in science and bringing his people together, and interested in things from the West and really progressive. And we must not forget that amongst Tibetans, the Dalai Lama is seen as a god king. Is seen as the reincarnation of a figure that's called in Tibetan Avalokitesvara, which is Kuan Yin in Chinese. It's a being called a bodhisattva, which is it's reached such a state of attainment that it's literally on the threshold of becoming enlightened, but it's put that off for the sake of all sentient beings, so it can come back and guide other people to enlightenment. That's literally the kind of the state this figure is. Everybody in Tibet sees this kind of character as virtually a god. And Teo was right that in Buddhism, it's people seem to think it's and there are Western forms of it that are entirely secular and get rid of the supernatural stuff. But there is a whole lot of supernatural in there. There are gods. There are hell realms. There's rebirth. We get reborn, and a whole other plethora of supernatural elements. And I think we should take that into account when we're looking at this, and not just see the Dalai Lama as some kind of dithering old man. He is considered a god amongst many people. That being said, I do agree with Cindy hugely that we should take this as there is a cultural aspect to this. There really is a cultural aspect to this. And as much as we find it alien, the tongue sucking thing does appear to be a thing in Tibet. But as Teo, I can see Jason.
I mean,
but as Jason and Teo have said, it's not something that is like, and Jason said it, I think, best when he said, the Dalai Lama isn't some kind of
he's not a
farmer.
hermit.
Who lives in the middle of the Tibetan mountains in a cave. He's not only a dignitary, I think it was up until 2011, he was the leader of the Tibetan people in exile, their political leader. He's entertained everybody who's anybody, presidents, princes, royalty, movie stars. He's entertained them all. And they've all been very, very quiet on this, by the way. Those who've had taken their opportunity for the publicity shots with the Dalai Lama have said very little on this subject. But he is not just some kind of guy sat in a cave in Tibet. He really is. He is politically switched on. He developed a 10-point system of trying to get Tibet reinstated into China and to work with the Chinese government. He sat down at a table with Mao Zedong to try and sort this thing out. So this isn't just some dithering old guy. It's politically switched on. And I think that is the point we should really concentrate on, that he should know better, regardless of whether suck my tongue is an innocent phrase in Tibet between grandfathers and grandchildren. That's not a defense in this case. And it's really not. And he's politically switched on. He really should be aware that he should not be doing this at all. I'm gonna. Jason was chomping at the bit. I'm gonna throw it over to Jason so he can respond.
I kind of wanted to talk about something that Cindy said, and I really appreciate what you brought up. If anybody is saying, look at these, quote, savages and their savage third world practices, she's right in saying that. I agree. There's no reason to say these people are, I guess in Texas, backwoods. That would be the term that we would use. These backwoods yokels or something, or these rednecks or these trailer park people, that would be the slur that we would use. That would be applicable, I guess, kind of what Cindy was talking about. And I agree with her that if we're gonna say, oh, look at these gross, underdeveloped people, and that's why they do that, that's idiotic. I mean, that's fucking stupid, right? Just because somebody comes from a tribal or quote third world or underdeveloped or whatever term you want to call it, that doesn't mean that their grandfathers are running around making kids suck on their tongues, right? So that has nothing to do with it. So I really appreciate that she brought it up, but I'm gonna have to just be redundant and echo what Richard and Teo said. This is a man who knows foreign policy, right? This is a highly educated, worldly man who props himself up as some type of reincarnation of some God force thing. And if I've learned anything about religion, and especially about holy men in religion is that these men use religion to hide in plain fucking sight. I brought it up last time I was on here. So again, I'm going to be redundant again. Ted Bundy, Dennis Rader, John Wayne Gacy, Richard Ramirez, Jeffrey Dahmer. These are Christians. These are Christian people. The reason Dennis Rader was able to hide in plain sight was because he was the president of his Church of Christ. And he looked like just kind of a nice old man who was nice to his family. And he was balding a little and kind of pudgy and just really sweet. But he was also doing what he did. Jeffrey Dahmer, hi, I'm a nice guy. I'm Jeffrey. You want to dance? That's okay. He's drilling holes in your brain, right? I mean, Ted Bundy. John Wayne Gacy was part of a suicide hotline. Or Ted Bundy, one of them. I'm sorry if one of those guys was part of a suicide hotline. Both of them were actively involved in their church, but they used that to hide in plain sight. They played the game. So I know Cindy said to warn about using our bias towards the Catholic Church, but if anything, I might have to agree with Teo. I think we are learning from watching these fuckers in the Catholic Church in their robes and His Holiness. It's the same thing, the same words, the same titles, the same propping up, the same closeness to the whatever fucking thing that you're close to. And they're allowed to just kind of do their own thing. People apologize for them. That's apologetics right there. Religious apologetics are a red flag for soothing of cognitive dissonance and trying to cover up disgusting shit that gross men do. Teo, I feel like you want to say something, man. What you got?
Oh yeah, no, I really hope that we live in a world where these type of red flags immediately make people realize, hey, something is wrong. There are no holy guys around because, oh yeah, His Holiness, he's so holy. We all rely on him. How do you dare attacking him? This is obviously an attack from China. They are doing this. And then they start writing all these articles about, no, it's not what you think. There are two things that I found interesting about articles. One of them is the one that I'm going to mention second, the thing of the grandparents and their children. And the first one is about a tradition that apparently in Tibet, a show of respect is showing the tongue. It's a sign of respect or agreement because of a legend about a cruel 9th century King Lang Dharma, who had a black tongue. And since then, people have shown their tongue as a way of saying that they are not like that guy. But it's just a sign of respect and there is no tongue sucking involved. Then the phrase, was it? I don't remember the phrase. Oh yeah, che lisa, in which their children say, eat my tongue because they have given everything else. Somebody decided to ask ChatGPT, the overmighty, all-knowing AI, about this, which we have to admit has some. It has a lot of limited knowledge. It doesn't know everything, but I like the final conclusion that it gives. I'm quoting ChatGPT in here. After somebody asked, "Is there a Tibetan tradition for elders to ask children to eat their tongues?" Answer: I am not aware of any Tibetan tradition that involves elders asking children to eat their tongue. Such a practice would be highly unusual and potentially harmful, both physically and psychologically. It's important to be skeptical of claims that suggest harmful or abusive behavior in any cultural tradition, and to seek out reliable sources and credible information. And can you believe I couldn't find any reliable information about Che Lisa except this article that came out as an apologetics to say, no, the Dalai Lama is doing something that is normal over there. There's nothing before that, or at least maybe I'm wrong, but I couldn't find any practice related to that or any that wasn't from after the Dalai Lama did what he did. So I don't want to call BS on that, but it's extremely hard for me to believe that it's something culturally normal and appreciated. I don't know what you think, Richard.
I think both you and Jason have touched on something that's very, very important, and that is that there were red flags. But I think the red flags are very much from his supporters, and they just this seems to be a disproportionate amount of people who just kind of blinded because it's the Dalai Lama. and because of his reputation and all of that. And some of the excuses, I think it was Taylor who mentioned it earlier about it was someone blamed it on the Chinese government being a conspiracy, which is clearly bollocks. It's just absolutely that's just why. I mean, that's next level apologetics.
But
having said that, a couple of people did say that, I think it was the statement they put out, that his office put out, that said he is very playful, the Dalai Lama, and when he's kind of does public appearances. I can actually attest to that, because in 2008 he visited Nottingham, and I think it was over 5 days, and I was in attendance on every single one of those days. And when he speaks publicly, he is very, very playful and kind of got that like happy demeanor about him. And that's no excuse for what he did by any means, but I do agree with that part of it. I think the thing for me in this, kind of taking everything into consideration, both Jason and Teo have kind of mentioned the other religious people. I don't want to just say Christians, but let's say other religious people, and the child grooming and the unsavoriness of just because you're religious, it doesn't mean you can't do harm. I genuinely don't think the Dalai Lama is a child groomer. I don't think he's done this in a sexual way whatsoever. By that token, I think it was completely, as I said earlier on, he's completely wrong. Is completely wrong in this aspect, because he should know better. And there was I think I can't agree more with, I think it was I'm just going to have a quick look. It was the Delhi-based child rights group HACK, which is the Center for Child Rights, who told CNN such cultural expressions are not acceptable. And I think that is the most important point of this. All of the things aside, everybody defending him aside, that it might be a cultural kind of practice in his own country, he should know better, and it's not acceptable. And the level of apologetics for him has been next level and absolutely ridiculous. We do need to move on. If anybody wants to kind of have a last word before we go, please do. Jason, jump in.
Look. Here's the one thing I'm gonna have to say, Richard. Man who holds my middle name, we're kin, right? So look, you will never ever find me at any age in any place in my life making a mistake and accidentally sucking face with somebody else's child. All right, and I mean, it just, as a father, which I mean, I know, as a parent, fellow parent as well. If I were to see that happen to my daughter, I don't give a fuck if you're the Dalai Lama or I don't care who you are. I'd be taken to prison and you'd be taken to the hospital. I'm sorry. That's what that, and there's no fucking excuse for it. That's the thing. So if he made a mistake, here's the thing. If people are apologizing for it, saying it's a cultural thing, that's another dog whistle right there. That's another, oh, this is what he does. Oh, he does this? This is a thing? I didn't know this went on. How many children has the Dalai Lama made out with? And how many children have sucked on his tongue? I don't know. I can't get behind it. I think it's disgusting. And I just think his old brain is slipping and people need to put him back in a cage. I don't know. It grosses me out. So I can't handle it. Cindy, I know you had a little, how do you feel about this? I'd like to get maybe a more reasonable, all I'm seeing is my daughter up there right now, and that guy doing that and me doing the thing I would do. So Cindy, can you please give me some reason in this?
Yeah. So apparently I'm the only one who received money from the Chinese government here. I guess. But yeah, no, I think you're all right, and we've all said it, that it was inappropriate. It was an abuse because the child wasn't agreeing, and
Well, yeah.
And I think it ends there. That's even though there were some cultural differences that were a thing where he grew up. even though he could invoke this as an excuse, it's not. It's not an excuse, because, as you all said, he should know better because he's been around, traveling around the entire world and being on TV and being with people from different cultures. He should know that. He should know that. He should know what all the Catholic priests have done. He should know that as the representative of a religion, he will be associated to any others when he does something. So he should know all that, and he did it anyway. So yeah, he can be playful, he can be everything he wants. The only reason why I try to temper a little bit all this is because I saw a couple of memes on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, and one of them was leaning towards the first thing I said. So that's why I wanted to clarify this. But yes, it's not on the same level as abusing 500 kids, but it's still inexcusable.
Yeah, I just want to say, fuck any old man abusing children. I don't care the type of holiness they are. If it's proven, yeah, we should get rid of them. That's it.
I agree.
Yep. That okay. So let's bring it down a little bit.
Let's talk about something more positive.
Let's talk about a guy who hates trans people. This is great.
If you can be arranged to be in the Austin area on Sunday, April the 30th, God, I love you guys. Consider joining us in the studio audience at the ACA Free Thought Library for live broadcasts of Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience. Doors open at noon on Sunday. Parking is where you can find a legal spot after the lot is full. And I'm led to believe it's not a huge lot. If you can't make it, if they're there this month, we will continue to broadcast live from the library the last week of each month. So keep watching this show and our website, which is atheist-community.org, for news and information as we expand our in-studio offerings in the near future. Also, have you ever said to yourself, I really love the content of the ACA creates. I wish there was a way I could get it all the time. Have you? Well, guess what? We've got you covered. Check out our brand new 24/7 AXP TV live stream. You can tune in at any time of the day to experience a constant stream of shows, clips, and specials from over the 26 seasons of the Atheist Experience. Watch or simply listen to your favourite hosts and discover some hosts you've never heard of. Visit tiny.cc/AXPTV to join in on the fun. We're going to jump into segment 3. Cinder is leading. Take it away.
Thanks. So we're going to talk about an article that talks about this funny and gentle and happy gentleman called Webster Barnaby. He's a state representative in Florida. And so during hearing about these same bullshit laws about gender toilets and everything, he said that basically, and I quote, "We have people that live among us today on planet Earth that are happy to display themselves as if they were mutants from another planet." And then later he says, "Yeah, that's right. I called you demons and imps who come and parade before us and pretend that you are part of this world." So this happy man seems to to have some issues. So he then apologized, and that's the topic of this article. So before I lean more into this topic, who wants to? Jason,
Me.
wants to go in.
This guy right here. You know, it's all right. I'm gonna try to keep this monetizable. All right, look, it just blows my mind when stuff like this pops up. You know, maybe it shouldn't, but it does, and I can't help it. The thing that really messes with my mind is I see an African American person treat another marginalized minority community with so much disregard. It's heartbreaking. It's like it's like this individual is unable to see the intersectionality of the situation. Instead, I'm not going to say what my note said, this person who is obviously an open bigot, he holds a seat of power in our nation. Another old man with archaic views who's been elevated to a place where he can decide the fates of so many people. I feel like I'm again an episode of a Twilight Zone, like some absurdist reality where bad is good and good is bad. It's really hard to feel any hope, honestly. At times, I feel guilty for having my kid and bringing her into this world where bigots and pederasts and murderers hold the highest offices and the most influential positions while abusing the masses and leading them down a path of destruction. I know this man is old enough to have lived through the civil rights movement. I know it. I know this man had to have been affected by that. He reminds me of this, you have these conservative, like the one or two conservative trans people, the one or two conservative women that just lick the boots of the men in charge. It's like what it reminds me of. I talk about serial killers a lot because that's kind of what I'm into. There are people who love dating serial killers, and the psychology behind it's really interesting. It's if I date the beast, or if I'm with the beast, then I'm protected from that beast, and that beast will protect me from the other beasts out there. And what this guy reminds me of is that exact same thing. And I don't care about his apology. I really don't. As a queer person living in Texas, I'm already dealing with legislation and social sanctions and mores that are already placed on me, right? I have to watch myself at work. I have to watch myself in the public. And it's funny because I haven't been lately, and it's been really interesting, the results. Because I'm just sick of I'm sick of hiding in plain sight, But the thing is, for the T of the LGBTQ, they don't have the same luxury that I have as a 6 foot tall, hetero presenting, cis male, white male who drives a truck and works in the oil and gas industry. Right. So you have people like this guy, more or less, attacking what now would be considered low-hanging fruit. Oh yeah, trans people. Yeah, trans people. Hey, you like me, don't you? You like me. Just another like Herschel Walker, it seems like. To me, it's just another way to invite the beast in your house in hopes that the beast doesn't eat you too. Richard, how do you feel about this, bud?
I think, look, I would personally, I'd like to invite Mr. Webster Barnaby. Let's take a trip. Mr. the African American, let's take a trip back to 1774. Let's visit Edward Long's History of Jamaica and his denouncements of Africans being inferior and subhuman. Does that sound familiar at all, Barnaby baby? Perhaps we should learn a tiny, tiny little lesson here before continuing with these pronouncements. And, of course, it was God's will that made him say all of this. It was that inspiration, because God created men, male, and women, female. And far be it from me to labour a point, I'm absolutely going to. But I would love to direct Barnaby to Reverend Thornton Stringfellow's 1856 scriptural and statistical views in favour of slavery, where he reminds us that it is the will of God that African American men and women should be held in bondage. Oh, how the lessons of history are forgotten. And I think that's, I'm going to pass it on to Teo, because this whole thing just completely disgusted me.
Oh, it disgusted you. Okay, thanks for passing it to me, because probably I'm not going to be as disgusted as you are, right?
God, this guy tonight, man.
Dude. I guess I have to say, I love how you mentioned that this is what happens when you take history from a whole country. People like this forget what happened so quickly, and he's not even at school. And this makes me angry in several ways. There have been so many anti-trans people being passed during the last days. I think I counted at least 9 or 10. The last one I was reading about was this one that mentions that all trans people are adult cabaret performers. So the Pride Parade is considered an adult cabaret performance, and therefore they cannot go through the city because it's going to be 1,000 step near a school or stuff like that. So yeah, they are turning the whole parade into an illegal thing. And it disgusts me a lot. It's extremely disgusting how the USA is at war with the trans population. And guys, you only have religion to blame for it. I mean, I know it makes no sense. It's the most stupid thing always, the most stupid thing ever. I have mentioned it before, and I'm going to mention it again. The only men wearing dresses who are hurting children are priests, not trans people. And how do we know that religion is the cause of this? Well, because the piece of bust guy, the guy himself that we're talking about, he says so. He says, this is the planet Earth, where God created men male and women female. Because apparently he didn't understand that when you are taking a rib out of Adam, you're creating a trans clone, but whatever. Or the same happens with, Mary having a clone of herself, so Jesus is also trans. That's why my calendar is trans Jesus, if you saw it. And yeah, he doesn't understand any of that. And it's so awful because he says this, oh yeah, male men, female women, and then he says, I'm a proud Christian, conservative Republican.
Gross.
I'm not on the fence. And he repeats it, not on the fence. And as Cindy mentioned, right after he called these people, trans people, mutants and demons, he dared to say, that's right, I call you demons and imps who come and parade before us and pretend you're part of this world. And it's freaking disgusting how, because of a God that they cannot prove that exists, they discriminate real people who actually exist, who are in front of you. Disgusting, awful people. So yeah, it's terrible how the USA hates trans people so much that to the extent that they are turning being trans into a crime. They are turning helping trans people into a crime. Doesn't this remind you, of certain thing that happened in Germany before World War II, where the most famous Christian of history was in power, deciding who was able to live, to be in places, and who was supposed to be treated as lesser than human? I don't know, Cindy. I think you have more things to say about this than I do, so please take this away from me.
Yeah. What Jason mentioned earlier about intersectionality, it made me think we are seeing exactly the same thing in Israel right now. I mean, the Israeli people have suffered, as you said, in World War II, and now they're doing exactly what they've been done to the Palestinians. And it seems that like this man doesn't remember what his people have been have suffered through, and he's doing the same thing to another group of people. But yeah, let's get this straight. He only apologizes to keep his seat, not because he's sorry, not because he changed his mind on trans people, not because he changed his mind on the law he's trying to pass. He, as Theo said, he also seems to be quite, let's say, intellectually limited. I would say, because when you try to demonize a group or a person, you're supposed to not make it obvious, especially if you are a politician. But if you call them actual demons, then the demonization is quite obvious. On top of that, according to the lore, imps had to earn their right to a gender, meaning they are born without any gender, and then through their actions they get the right to choose it. And so basically they are trans. And so calling us imps to insult us is like saying, yeah, Richard, you have glasses. I mean, that should be an insult. Well, it's you. It's who you are. It's stupid. But yeah, this is part of a very, very much larger war on trans people that's at play in the US and in the UK also. Right now, several states have attacked our community, my community, in a way or other, mostly through what we need the most, meaning the ability to transition, the medical procedures. Uh, it's maddening to see all that happen while the federal government is completely unable to do anything about it, and that's infuriating. It's true what they say that the and Theo stole my line earlier, that the US is the richest third world country on the planet. With everything that's going on, I don't understand how this country is not in the middle of a revolution right now.
Yeah, I find it extremely appalling, like you brought up, that we have somebody with, I guess, limited understanding of reality in a political position. This really hits close to home. It's I'm in my last 3 weeks of getting my bachelor's of science in psychology, and I'm just writing papers. Anybody who finished their undergrad, everybody knows that last semester is nothing, just papers and internship. I'm actually an ACA intern right now, so one of my final papers has to do with trans conversion therapy and a religious-based trans deconversion therapy, where they try to get you to deny your transness. And it's interesting, having done this amount of research, and I'm looking at my paper right now, and it's what we've seen. We have countless studies that show how, especially with trans youth and just trans people in general, how denying them their proper place in society as a normal human being and as a citizen of a country, just like I am or anybody else is, causes irreparable damage. I mean, you have a 2002 study published by the Journal of Sex Research. Researchers found that attempts to change sexual orientation through reparatives and gender through reparative therapy were successful in altering it, and that participants in the study reported they had been harmed by the therapy. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Homosexuality, efforts to change sexual orientation are correlated with mental health harms, including depression, anxiety, and suicidality. They found that LGBT youth had undergone conversion therapy at higher rates of homelessness, binge drinking, risky sexual behaviors than LGBTQ youth who have not undergone it. They find they have a higher rate of mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. They have lower self-esteem, life satisfaction, and 800% increase in risk of suicidality and suicide attempts. The thing is, whenever trans and queer people in general are accepted by society, what's super interesting is that our as a queer person, our outcomes are actually better than straight people. We report higher life satisfaction, higher happiness, higher joy, less anxiety, less depression. So, all that said, we have a person who is representing us, and like Cindy brought up early on, representing a very small but vocal and powerful minority who is anti-scientific, who is going against what all the medical organizations and civil rights organizations and legal organizations who actually are concerned about health and everything included, he is saying the exact opposite. To me, that is just so atrociously absurd that this person is still allowed to be in office after saying this shit. I don't get it. I don't know. Teo, how do you feel about this, man? I feel like I'm lost for words. I see this war waged against wonderful, beautiful people, many of whom I'm very close friends with and work with, and I don't understand it. What do you think, man?
It's pure hatred. It's hard to understand, but it's, as I said, they hate people who are real because of a god they cannot prove exists, who supposedly hates other people, and the hatred is so much. I don't know if you have seen that. I think Bud Light is the beer that decided to have a trans people representative. I haven't seen the commercials, but I've heard about it. And what happens? Christians from all over the USA are sending death threats to employees, to events, and to the factories of Bud Light. So there you have it. Apparently, there is no hatred as pure as Christian love, and it's sad and disgusting. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I think for me, I find the words of this man and his very quick and insincere apology absolutely reprehensible. I think to the extent that I would propose a non-profits hall of shame, and I think he should be the inaugural inductee, because it did wind me up that much reading this article. I think the fact that the immediate backlash against him, including from the very person who introduced this anti-trans bill to begin with, that's how much of a backlash he got, was overwhelming, and that's what forced the apology. And out of my only hope is that out of this, Barnaby has had a chance to reflect on not just the backlash of his words, but the deep dimensions of what he said. And I haven't been using references to the slave trade and dehumanizing of Africans by accident during this segment. And I think the genuine anti-trans feeling that exists without justification and built on smoke and mirrors rhetoric, it's just held up by personal biases based on the will of God, really do make the arguments rhetorical cousins to each other. This needs recognizing, and I think it needs recognizing soon. And I'm just going to kind of throw this to Cindy to close us out on this one.
So I very frequently say that all discriminations are based on bad information or disinformation or misinformation. Every single one at the core, there is a bad information. So, and I understand that understanding why a person is trans is hard. I get that. When I started talking about it, the more frequent question I had was, I don't understand. I am a man and I don't particularly feel like a man, or I'm a woman and I don't particularly feel like a woman. So how can you be a man and feel like a woman? And I get the question. The other aspect of this is that if you listen to Dr. Robert Sapolsky, he says something like 50% of everything we know about the brain we learned in the last 20 years, and half of this was learned in the last 5 years. So you cannot build your understanding of the world on all the information. And so if you want to understand a little bit more about this topic, I suggest you go to Google Scholar and type sexual dimorphism in the brain. Sexual dimorphism in the brain. And you will have a beginning of understanding on why trans people are just are.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. Look, that's been we're going to have some we're going to go into a bit of positiveness for his last article, but before that, you can become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. You can click the join button below the video, and this will give you access to special chat emojis. And also, we have merch. You can visit tiny.cc/merchaca to get your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs. You can check out our new items like beanies, phone cases, and tote bags. All ACA shows feature a special limited edition item each month, so be sure to check out our store for non-profits merch and merch from all the other shows. We're going to jump into section 4. I think this is a step in the right direction. This really is a step in the right direction article, and we haven't got Cynthia. So I'm just going to say step in right direction, step in right direction, step in right direction. Yes. Woo. Just to mimic. And I know it was completely unnoticeable from if Cynthia was singing it herself. This article comes from the Stranger. I apologize. This article comes from thestranger.com and was published on 12th of April by Vivian McCall. This article tells us that changing your name is now safer easier and potentially free if you are trans in Washington state. This comes after Governor Jay Inslee signed Senate Bill 5028, amending existing law around name changes. Changing your name will, the article tells us, be made private and court sealed if you are transgender, whether if you're a child adoptee, a victim of domestic violence, a refugee, or someone who has received asylum. And furthermore, fees sometimes in excess of $350 will be waived if you are low income. I'm going to chuck it to Jason just to kind of get his opinion on this one.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate that. I look, finally a breath of fresh air after this onslaught of, let's say, disgusting men. Living in Texas, these types of changes in legislation honestly seem impossible. With the current political landscape in Texas, I don't really see anything like this happening anytime soon. It's funny because in the near future, I've been talking with my partner. I'm going to be buying some small plots of land in Oregon and Washington. Once my daughter hits college age, we're out of Texas. I need somewhere that actually takes care of its citizens. The legislature in Washington saw a dire need, and they took the necessary steps to help a vulnerable population. I can only hope that Texas can someday demonstrate a shred of the progressivity that Washington has shown. What they have demonstrated is humanism in action. They recognized the need, a part of life where harm was being caused, and they were able to alleviate at least some of the suffering that trans folks deal with in this hellscape that is the U.S. As a queer person, I can't help but feel like we got a win in our camp. But is it enough? Will this inspire more states to rise up and protect the rights of their vulnerable populations? Or will it drive more states to double down on their bigoted platforms and take more rights away from more marginalized groups? I don't know. Only time can tell. I can't say I'm optimistic because I'm not known for my optimism. And I don't really believe it when people tell me the world's getting better. Show me where. Don't get me wrong. Clean-ish water, safe-ish drugs, antibiotics at work most of the time, and plentiful, but sometimes low-grade food are all available. Well, sometimes if you have enough money. Here in the West, but how accessible are these things? And, who really benefits by these advancements? So while we are seeing a step in the right direction, I'm just really hoping that the backlash that we normally see when something positive happens doesn't happen here in Texas. And they're like, well, fuck them Washingtonians. We're just going to make, even saying the word trans illegal. So, Cindy, how do you feel about this? You're muted.
Sorry. So after the last article, this is a very fresh, positive change.
Mhm.
It's a small step, but it's still a step forward. But a couple of things struck me here. First, the cost of the procedure. The article mentions a cost between $350 to $500. I think that's a lot. I'm glad they found a way to go around it for some of the population concerned by this law, but this shouldn't cost anything.
Yep.
Trans people are not the only ones for whom changing name is critical, and I'm really, really glad that the legislators here took all of them into account. I thought that was a very, very nice gesture. But most of those people have one thing in common. The name change is caused and needed by a dire situation. And at a time like this, you shouldn't have to worry about the cost of necessary bureaucratic steps. The second thing is that the fact that courts are even involved in the first place. So I'm French, and I had to do that back in France as well. And it's also the case in France that the courts are involved, and I don't understand why. There shouldn't be any involvement by the courts. In Belgium, for example, you go to the city hall and say, "Okay, I want to change my first name," and so there's a 3-month delay during which this high cop, high policeman, there's some office that looks into the list of changes, and make sure that you're not wanted by the police and just
Mhm.
are changing your name to avoid um, sanctions and justice. But other than that, they just let it go, and no court is involved, and then you go back to the city hall 3 months later, and then it's done. So I think that's how it should happen everywhere, and I hope it will be one day.
Yeah, Teo.
Yeah, I was thinking that when I started reading this article, changing your legal name is now safer, easier if you're trans. I could only think on that. That's awesome. Congratulations, Washington. Finally step on the right direction after all the disaster we have to read in here. Cindy already said the most important things about this article, so I will just say finally, one good piece of news. And that's all I have to say, dear Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a step in the right direction. Let's hope it starts a marathon, because that's what we need. If you want to join our social fan media outlets, you can find most of the non-profit hosts on the Atheist Community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/acd discord, and on Facebook at tiny.cc/fbnp. And if you would like to support the show, you can do so by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/patreonnp. And also, we value your feedback. We really, really do. Tell us what you like and what you don't like in the comments, or email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. And I genuinely do respond to any emails that are passed on to me. So please do feel free to communicate with us that way. Also, visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org on the latest of what's been happening, and feel free to contact the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org. So we're going to wrap up very, very quickly in a minute. I just want to get everybody's final thoughts on the whole show. Final opinions on the whole show altogether. I'm going to start with Jason, and let's see what you've got to say about the whole thing.
Well, I mean, I'd have to say that if we really highlighted anything, it's the danger of exalting people to positions of untouchable authority. We have seen a shitty internet apologist, dog whistling violence. We've seen a holy man make out with a kid in public and have people do apologetics for it. And now we have we have a representative, again, more air quotes, of people not representing his people, and all three of them still have their platforms, and I think that's atrocious, and I think that something should be done about that. I don't know what. I know what I would like, but I don't think that's the best thing to promote on the ACA. So all that I know is that what we should do is vote, and vote extra hard. And if you want change, get elected and take over. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, Cindy.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Jason, because the last few days, other people and entities have been suffering of the same issue. Like Fox News just avoided a trial and avoided any accountability for all the lies and all the issues they've caused since January 6th and even before. Trump still has his platform, and he's going to be the Republican nominee, and he's still someone who has been put in charge, and with this extremely high position of power for the bad reasons. So yeah, this thing that you're describing, it's plaguing the US right now, and I don't see any way out right now.
Yeah, thank you, Teo.
Yeah, well, I've said it before. I will say it again. The USA scares me a lot. Like, I used to want to live in there. Now, not even if I got paid for it. It's terrible what is happening over there. I have Trans Jesus here right next to me because apparently the holy men forget that Jesus is a clone of Mary, so Jesus was obviously trans, and for some reason they hate trans people. And it's sad. It's extremely sad. And I guess I just care about the USA for real. Like, I'm living far now, but in here we tend to imitate that country. So I really hope people in the USA realize how bad things are getting and they start doing things against the fundamentalists that are the root of the problem and what are corrupting that country over there. So that's it. I'm not going to action, but good luck, guys. Good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for your opinions. This has been a fantastic panel. I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you all. You've all brought something different to the table, and I love the shows where we disagree with each other. They're the best ones. I genuinely love working with all three of you, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everybody out there in internet land, for watching, and we will see you next time.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.